When it came to this job, no one was more efficient than Oren Walsh. The task was simple. Take a bunch of bananas, place it onto a styrofoam tray, and then vacuum seal the whole thing in plastic. Most people on the factory floor could do about 7,000 a day, but Oren was not most people. Oren could do about 9,000 a day. This is what he prided himself on, because this was his ticket up. Oren's life plan was not to work forever on the dingy, dusty factory floor of the banana packaging factory. Oren had been to college. He had a degree in computer engineering. The only reason he was here now was because the market was flooded with computer engineers. And just because the field hadn't grown to accommodate him yet didn't mean it wouldn't soon. Oren kept putting in applications, and he knew that any day now his break would come. And Oren knew that if he could get a promotion, then his break would come sooner than later. The factory owners relied on computer codes to know how many bananas to order and how many they needed to package per day. If Oren could show the owners that he was worthy by packaging the bananas quicker than anyone, then they would give him a chance to join their ranks. And once that happened, then he could finally do what he was meant to do all along. "We hit our quota for the day," said Veo. Veo Lewis worked at the factory with Oren, and the two had developed a sort of friendship over the course of the year Oren had been at the factory. Veo had been at the factory for 3 years. "Already?" asked Oren. He had just finished sealing his 8,102nd banana bunch, a little shy of his normal daily total. "Yeah, a whole half hour early today," said Veo with a laugh. Oren wasn't sure if the half hour off was a blessing or a curse, but the conveyor belt slowed to a stop and quickly left him with no choice but to go. "Overseer of packaging?" asked Oren. Veo took a long swig from the bottle in front of him. "Yes, sir. They're finally rewarding my time at the company." "And you didn't even need to go to college," said Oren, trying not to betray any jealousy. "I'll tell you." Veo took another long swig, then tapped the tabletop with his hand, indicating another round for himself. "College is overrated. They fill your head with all those books, and for what? No one cares what you know, only what you can do. I feel like I package a lot of bananas." "Sure," said Veo, "and one day you'll get your break. But think about it." The bartender brought Veo another bottle, which he immediately cracked open and took a drink of. "When you add up all the bananas you've done over the last, 6 months? Almost a year now. The last year, then it still wouldn't equal the bananas I've done in the last 3 years. Veo reached out a hand and placed it onto Oren's shoulder. "You'll get there one day. You just have to keep at it." Veo took another sip, then set his glass down. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but there's going to be some layoffs tomorrow, as soon as you walk in. And the owner said they want me to announce it." "What are you saying? You're telling me I'm out of a job?" No. A few people get to keep their jobs, and you know I wouldn't do that to you." "I'm keeping my job." Veo nodded. "I'll take care of you. No worries." "That's good. I wouldn't want to have to cash in on our bet early." Veo and Oren shared a laugh. Oren was walking home along the pier when he heard the familiar ply of a vendor trying to draw him in. It was a little late for it, but not as late as it would normally be if he was coming home at this hour. "Sir? Sir!" Oren couldn't stop himself. He turned and looked, and that's when he knew he was in trouble. "Sir, may I offer you toast on a stick?" The man held up a single slice of bread, skewered on the edge with a wooden stick. The bread was notable only for how nondescript it was. It wasn't even steaming, as fresh toast should be. "I'm good," said Oren, and kept walking. He waited for the harassment to continue, but it did not. It was still early when Oren made it home. Between getting out early and not staying at the bar long, Veo's promotion hadn't left him in his normal drinking mood. It was only 7 o'clock when he stepped through the door. "You know I go on maternity leave tomorrow, right?" Reyes stood in the doorway which separated the living room from the kitchen. "You can't wait another week?" asked Oren. "In another week, Jules will be out of me and into the world." "And there's no way the department will pay you for the time off?" "I've asked 6 ways up and down," said Rhea. "They won't budge." Oren walked over to Rhea and put his hand over her bulging abdomen. "Whatever she costs us, it'll be worth it." $13,846.15, said Rhea. "That's how much just the maternity leave will cost in missed pay." I did the math. Oren's mouth froze up for a moment, and then he swallowed. "Well, like I said, she'll be worth every penny." "Any news on your promotion?" Rhea made her way into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. Oren made his way over to Rhea's side and pressed himself close to her, giving her a kiss on the cheek. "Like I told you, it's coming any day now. It's just logistics at this point. You know how smart the factory owners are. They just want to make sure everything's squared up for my big move, that's all." Oren kissed her again. "Well, it better be coming soon for real this time. We're really counting on it to make this whole thing work." "I know," said Oren, and rubbed his hand up and down her arm. When Oren got into work the next day, the door was locked. He knew what this meant because Veo had told him, although the looks on the other faces in the crowd told him he might have been the only one who knew. Oren felt a shove on his shoulder and saw that it was Veo, pushing his way through the crowd. Veo got to the front and began waving his hands around and shouting. He needed to shout over the sea of 50 voices, but eventually he succeeded. "As some of you already know," said Veo, "I am now the packaging overseer for this factory. As such, I oversee all the packaging of the bananas here. The owners have been pleased with all of your performances lately, and they wanted me to tell you that. But last night, we got some good news delivered to us. For months now, the owners have been trying to work out a way to transition labor costs at this factory. Now, finally, we have the ability. Effective immediately, robots will perform the entire packaging process at the factory." Immediately, the crowd reacted with a cacophony of what Oren could only assume were well thought out and articulate counter-arguments to the apparent automation of their factory. However, Veo was struggling to regain control of the crowd, but eventually succeeded. "There are a few people who the owners have decided to let stay on, as a sort of backup to the robots." Oren gave an involuntary nod. He glanced around. Everyone still seemed nervous, confused, upset. He didn't want to stand out by seeming too comfortable. "The owners," said Veo, "have decided the only reasonable way to decide who gets to stay is to draw out of a hat." This revelation surprised Oren, as he thought this was an odd way to pick when Veo said they already knew who they wanted to keep. Maybe this was somehow for appearances. If it looked random, maybe they figured it would look more fair. But, Oren wondered, wasn't it already fair if they were just picking the best workers to stay on, such as himself? Veo wasted no time reaching into a hat which had seemingly just materialized into his hand. He pulled out a name. "The first person staying on will be Rico." Someone who Oren assumed was Rico shoved his way to the front of the crowd as everyone else leered silently. "The second person will be..." Veo swirled his hand around inside the hat. "Lavenda." Lavenda made her way to the front in the same manner that Rico had. "And the third and final person will be..." The crowd began making noise again, and Oren realized that Veo hadn't mentioned until just now that when he said a few people would be allowed to keep their jobs, that he literally just meant 3 people. Considering 2 had already been picked, 3 seemed suddenly like the smallest number known to math. "Harrow." About 5 people started making their way to the front. "Harrow," repeated Veo. "No, Harrow. You're not Harrow." Pushing and shoving commenced, but Oren didn't stick around for any of it. He stared at Veo, who suddenly seemed 100 miles away, shook his head, and then left. Oren made his way to his car and drove down to the pier. Once he was there, he parked and walked down to the very edge. He stared down into the deep blue of the water. He wondered how deep it was right at this very point. "Toast on a stick? Get your toast on a stick. Ah, here's a lucky woman." Oren looked behind him and saw a woman purchasing toast on a stick from the same blue man he'd seen before. He was parked right on the pier, still with his cart. Oren wasn't sure how he'd missed him. The woman took a bite of the toast on the stick and went on her way. "Toast? Get your toast on a stick?" the blue man yelled. Then he turned his attention to Oren. If I didn't know any better, sir, I'd say you are the type of man in need of toast on a stick. I'm good, said Oren. Well then, said the blue man, I do have a second guess. Perhaps you're the type of man who is in need of employment. Perhaps you were recently laid off. Oren looked around, as if searching for a hidden camera. How could this man selling toast on a stick have guessed that? The blue man resumed speaking before Oren could think of any sort of response. Sir, I think your silence may mean I'm correct. Maybe we can be of use to each other. Sir, may I interest you in the illustrative career of selling toast on a stick?